Yo, have you heard about Anchor? It's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome everyone to the L7C podcast. Today we have a very special episode for you all today. We have the wonderful Andrea Alaniz with us here today. How are you doing today, ma'am?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So happy that you are finally able to be on the L7C podcast in our end of year podcast. One of our goals was to have more female representation on our podcast because currently only Chelsea is the only female in the rotation. And they asked me about you and I said, we're working to get you in. And here you are on your first episode. So, Andrew, before we dive into what we're talking about, why don't you just give a little brief introduction on who you are?
My name is Andrea Alaniz. I'm actually from South Texas, living here in Columbus for couple months, been living in Mansfield before that, and before that even a little place called Tiffin. If you know where that is, that's unfortunate. If you don't, probably best it stays that way. But I actually came to Ohio for college, and I've just stayed here to work, and that's actually how I met you.
Yeah, and it's been a great relationship ever since. And one of the things that brought us together, besides the job that we work in, is our love of anime. Mm-hmm. So, Andrea, first off, what got you into anime growing up?
I'd really have to say that I just always enjoyed cartoons, like even just normal cartoons. And I was young enough that I didn't really see the difference between watching Powerpuff Girls and watching Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z. Like, it was all animated, and I understand there's that argument that it's all anime. Anything that's animated is anime, but there's that distinction for some people, so that's why I wanted to throw that out there. But I just, particularly with Japanese anime or international anime, I liked the art style. It was just very pretty, especially with like Sailor Moon. That was the one that I really followed as I got older, and when I realized I never finished it in middle school, I went back and rewatched the entire thing, even the seasons that hadn't been translated into English. And then from there, that was around the same time that Naruto came out and all that good stuff, so it just steadily built throughout my life.
And then you named things like Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon, and you just named Naruto. So what anime are you into? Like, what are some of your favorites? What do you look for when you're looking for an anime to watch? Are there certain traits you look for?
I'm not quite sure. I've just kind of run into these anime kind of by accident. It was on and I started watching it, especially when I was younger. But I've noticed lately that if I'm not really into the art style, I don't really want to watch it. Or if the plot isn't engaging right away. Like, I've watched The Promised Neverland and I really like it now. But I struggled with the first couple episodes getting into it. So I don't know. I just watch the ones that I kind of get into right away and can find a connection with right away.
So you grew up in Texas, as you said earlier. And when you were watching anime growing up, did you feel like there was a stigma around girls watching and liking anime? Did you feel like you had to hide it from your friend groups? I don't know if you had a more female friend group or a male friend group or either, or did you feel like you had to hide that because you didn't want to get picked on or things like that?
So Like, when I was really young, obviously everybody loved Pokemon. We all had the cards. It didn't matter, male, female. We all loved Pokemon. But then once we got, like, into later elementary school, into middle school, it definitely kind of became, even the guys wouldn't admit that they watched anime. So I feel like there was a period of time where anime in general just wasn't cool even for guys to admit, or if they did, they were definitely that group of kids that people picked on. So as I got older into more high school, I kind of opened up more to my male friends about it because I knew they were watching it, but I never really said anything to my female friends because I had just assumed they didn't, because it didn't seem to be like a girl thing to do, so I just never brought it up with them.
What about going forward in college, grad school? Did you ever find any group of female friends who you were able to tell watch like anime, or they were okay with watching anime?
I actually didn't find a friend group that did. I have told my friends about it, and like my best friend in the world, I love her. She is not a fan, which surprises me because she and I are like opposite. She loves and plays video games. I don't. I love and watch anime. She doesn't. So it's more that I have friends, female friends that don't watch it but can appreciate my love for it. So at this point, most of my friends that I talk to about anime are guys.
And just going off of that, I had a conversation last week, and we talked about how it's hard to find girls who are, open about like anime watching and like things like that. Do you think just because they're afraid they're going to get made fun of, or like, because it's hard if you don't like connect with someone's like, hey, do you watch Yu-Gi-Oh? And they're like, oh, that cartoon, and then it's like instantly.
So I mean, I don't know. I don't have a large enough like female friend group to really say like if they're like timid about coming out about it. I do feel like there's just still a general stigma as like anime is something that only kids should watch. There's also kind of that confusion about that line that I mentioned earlier where one of my other friends, she loves Avatar: The Last Airbender, loves it. And her husband likes anime, but she won't watch anime with him because it's not in English. And so that seems to just kind of rub her the wrong way. But she knows a lot of other females that watch anime that have been trying to get her into it. So it's weird. It's like some potential personal hang-ups about it. But I think there are more women that like anime than it seems, especially since if you go on Instagram on the For You page and you like a lot of anime pages, they're there.
And you did say, you talked about your guy group that they watch anime with. Do you feel like now guys have warmed up to girls liking anime because of, you just brought up the Instagram, women doing the cosplays of certain female anime characters and the things of like fan service and things like that? Has that opened guys more into loving girls who love anime?
I don't know if that's what it is or if it's become more mainstream that to watch anime, that it's now like, oh, this is just something we both enjoy. It's out there. It's almost a cool thing now to watch anime, especially certain types of them. So it's just kind of more out there and more just in general, like if people like it, it's something more they connect on rather than you kind of hide it. And if you happen to connect on it, good for you. But typically,
I think with women too, and now this day and age, how anime and obviously like comics and stuff have become pop culture. Everyone in the world knows who Kim Kardashian is. And I think it was about 2-3 years ago, she posted a picture on Instagram and Twitter. She had pink hair and she called herself Sakura. And she's a big name. So then everyone's like, oh, Kim Kardashian likes anime. That's cool for all of us to like anime. I remember Britney Spears posted a picture of her son drawing a picture of Goku. It was like, well, Britney Spears knows anime. So I feel like now it's more accepted in the mainstream, obviously. And now you have celebrities who I don't personally know if they like anime or whatnot, but using it to their advantage to get more fans, more clicks, things like that. When I brought up like fan service, because Andrea, what is fan service?
Oh, goodness. So fan service is any kind of particular scenes or situations Even the way a character can be drawn, that emphasizes their sex appeal, I guess, particular features, and just kind of can fit into certain personality tropes, including like the innocent one, the one who seems to put herself more out there. And obviously the trope, even in mainstream media, about like the beautiful girl who doesn't know she's beautiful, that whole thing. And with fan service specifically, in anime that I've watched, it's generally always like the big boobs falling on top of a dude somehow into some sort of semi-sexual position that in real life probably wouldn't happen, and definitely would not happen as much in real life as it does in animes.
Do you feel with like fan service, like when you're watching it, are you okay watching it? Do you feel like some anime should cut it back a little bit? Are you just like, it's just whatever?
I think it depends on the anime for sure, because like particularly with the situations where the girl falls on a guy into some sort of kind of risque position, that I've noticed that happens more in the like slice of life, the romance animes, and it's just like, this is cliche, guys. We can do better. Like, why do we need this? I mean, one of my favorite animes right now, My Hero, I mean, people could say that my favorite character, Momo, is complete fan service. And I can see that argument, and I get that. But it's also semi-explained as, like, her hero costume especially is semi-explained that if her skin's not exposed, she can't properly create the things that she's trying to. Of course, that is just kind of like a bonus for the male gaze, but at the same time, it's also kind of out there as necessary, and it's not overplayed. Like, anytime she's somewhat potentially exposed, they always have her facing away, whereas other authors potentially or studios would have her facing camera while that's happening. So I think it just depends. In general, if it's happening too much for me, then it's probably an anime that I'm not going to watch.
Now, you brought up Momo from My Hero, and I would say also, I guess, someone that everyone would know if they watch anime would be someone like Tsunade. And you see her build and her age of 50-something years old and the way she's built, and then you bring up Momo, who's 15, 16, and the way she's built. Do you think that the fan service is also putting those same type of beauty, look pressures on girls the way in America, Instagram and social media and all those things do? Because if every anime you see and every 15-year-old looks like she could be on the cover of Maxim, and then you look at yourself and you can't, could that affect you in the same way that we talk about models affecting girls in the United States? Oh,
absolutely. Because, I mean, especially since I watched Sailor Moon as a little kid, one of the biggest things that ran in my head was like, okay, which Sailor Scout did I look like? Because they were all so pretty. And then I always wanted in my head to look like the prettiest one, but I knew I didn't. Realistically could not happen. Because it's a cartoon, I feel like there's not as much pressure as magazines and media, because those are actual, quote, real people in those photos. Of course, Photoshop, but still, at least with anime, you know it's somebody's idealized version of people. But you would still, like, Momo in particular, and I forget the redheaded girl's name from Class B.
The one who did the internship with the big sister of Class B?
Yes, the one that did the internship with Momo. They're both beautiful. They're both, like, bustier, very slender. And so it's like, it almost could be a real body type for people. And you would want, some people would want to look like that, but they just don't. So it can be kind of triggering to only see idealized body types like that. Because especially with the female tropes, it's always slender, big breasts, or slender, small breasts, and they're very self-conscious about having small breasts. So it's always on the narrative for the female characters. It seems like either actually spoken on or just kind of implied.
And I agree with the thing about how they're drawn and the people, models, Photoshop and all their people. But I guess if you have that fifth, we talked about Comic-Cons, things like that, dressing up, things like that. If you have that 15-year-old girl who's at home watching My Hero and she wants to cosplay and she's not in the same build as those people, I guess that's the people I'm looking about for, because it's like, if you look at and it's not even just Momo, if you look at every girl in that show who's had a prominent or semi-prominent role, has fit the two tropes that you've said.
Mm-hmm.
Either slender, the big breast, or the small breast and like insecure about it. So it's like those people who are watching, it's like, well, I can't cosplay as Momo because I'm not built like that, and like things like that. So I feel like body positivity movement, things like that. I wonder down the road, is someone going to make a anime about body positivity? Because I feel like that's the next step in bringing more people into anime. And it's the same with the guys too. Not everyone is going to look like Goku. I mean, it's cool to strive to look like that, but not to the point where you're getting surgeries or like from the girl side, like breast enlargements, things like that. And then you brought up My Hero, which is one of your favorite shows. And what Andrea is going to be doing on the L7C podcast is she is going to be going over My Hero. We're going to have a whole bunch of My Hero Academia episodes going forward when the new season comes out, having episodes about how we got here, asking Andrea who her top 10 favorite heroes are, or her top 10 least favorite. I know who her least favorite is because he's actually my second favorite, so that will be an entertaining time, and just talking about how she got into it, like My Hero, and how popularities rose and it came out at the right time, and that's what she's going to be doing going forward. Andrea, is there anything else that you want to say, talk about? I mean, I can talk about anime forever.
I mean, we've had long conversations about anime before, and I'm sure that is going to continue even outside of this podcast. Mm-hmm. But just wrapping up, I guess, is I'm very excited for the new season, and I'm excited to talk to you about it, probably on air, off air. I'm just really excited to see what happens because I don't read the manga, so I have no idea what's coming.
Do you read manga have you read any mangas of your favorite anime before? Oh,
yes, I have. So, in that time period between middle school and college, when I kind of like put anime kind of on the back burner, mm-hmm. I don't know why, but I started reading manga online instead.
Okay. And
so I actually haven't watched this anime, but I read the manga for the Maid-sama anime. So I already know that entire show. Mm-hmm. And the other one that I'm watching right now, that's a remake, but that I read previously, is Fruits Basket, which is an anime I want you to watch. I know that's maybe not your flavor, but I want you to try it.
I'll try. Well, I was about to say I'll try anything once, but that's not true. I will try certain things once and then go from there. But also, you brought up Sailor Moon and the prettiest, and you trying to be them, which I think you're doing yourself a disservice. So going forward, like from there, and then you brought up Momo, who was your favorite on My Hero. So who right now, or who's your all-time favorite anime character, and why? Is it from a looks perspective, or is it because of their independent isms?
Feel a little on the spot here.
Well, that's what we do sometimes here.
So I always have a hard time choosing a favorite anything, so I do apologize.
You can give 5
for that. Okay, so my top 5, I'll go female since we're kind of going with that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I love Serena from Sailor Moon.
Okay.
Because she was the main character. She was the best. Mm-hmm. Of course, rewatching it, she's a little bit of a crybaby, but considering that personality, like similarity, I'll just overlook that. I love Momo. Love Hinata. And Fruits Basket, Toru, she has my heart. And probably the other one that people might not know, her name is Amu Himawari, I believe it is. It's been a long time since I read that manga, but it's from Shugo Chara.
Okay.
And basically it's a magical girl story in which people's kind of desires in their heart could birth characters. Mm-hmm. And she was a special situation where she actually had 3 different like personality types come out from that, and the transformations were in line with those personalities. And she kind of struggled with who people wanted her to be, how people saw her versus who she really was. So that was just something I really connected with, especially in middle school, and I still can kind of connect with that. So I love her, but people don't really know who she is.
So then you said those are your 5 favorite. Who would be like your least 5 favorite female anime characters, if you even have 5 that you don't like?
I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know if I have 5 that I don't like, but I watched Dragon Ball, then I watched a little bit of Dragon Ball Z, and I did not like what they did with Chi-Chi in Dragon Ball Z.
Okay. The overbearing mother thing, you didn't like it?
I also felt like she was a little unfair to Goku, just a little bit. Like, again, he was not the best dad. Totally get that. But, like, there were just times it seemed like I didn't like the fact that their marriage seemed like he just kind of was in it just to be in it, and then she was, I just did not like that dynamic. Who else? I don't know. I guess there aren't that many different female characters that I've come across that I just despise. Actually, I take that back. There's one that I absolutely loathe. However, for anybody that's going to watch Fruits Basket, I can't say who it is because it'd be a spoiler.
Okay.
So, if you want to know who that is, you can watch it.
I will find out. But I guess there's always a woman in anime who's very controversial fan base wise, who some people love it, a lot of people despise. And we talked about the show a little bit because you said one of your top 5 was Hinata. And I think that person of this generation is Sakura Haruno. And you didn't have her in your top 5 least liked, but what do you think about Sakura?
So, I don't know. Because when I first started watching Naruto, when it first came out, I was in middle school, and I was one of those kids that would have crushes that would never return. So I very much identified with that in both her and Hinata in the Naruto series. And I definitely had a crush on Sasuke when I watched it. So, understandable. But going forward, it just seemed like too much. And I've read the author's kind of like explanation why that kind of their love story was supposed to be the love that endures. But there are just some lines that were crossed in there that for her to still want to be with him and love him.
Yeah,
it was, for me, it just was a little too long and a little too domestic violence involved. Just no. But I can't say that I hate her. Like, I truly don't hate her. I do laugh at the memes. I do laugh at the jokes because I get it. But at the same time, I don't despise her.
Any other things you want to hit on before your first episode is done?
I don't.
Any shout outs to anyone? It's your first episode.
No, I don't think I have anything else. I'm sure if you come up with another question, I'll give you an answer, but I think that's it for the first time. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And with that being said, thank you, Andrea, for being on the L7C podcast, bringing more women representation to the brand. Thank you, everyone who listens on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all that. We appreciate your support. Andrea will be back, and she is going to be talking some My Hero, and we're going to try and get Andrea's top 10 favorite characters off My Hero Academia. That will be her next episode, so be on the lookout for that. We may also try and get Andrea in our new series that we're starting. If you haven't listened to Cedric's Naruto one, at the end, you heard us talking about the what if battles. So we're going to be bringing that next month, and we're going to be doing crazy what if battles, just randomly picking them. I know I ran some by Andrea at the office, and she had to take her glasses off to really think about some of them. So hopefully we can have her on there as well, so we can have a woman's input on that. And with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. You guys take care.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.